Morning, guys. You know, there are certain cars, right, where when I drive for the past few days, right, I'll go like, and then there are certain cars, right, that when I drive, right, I go like, this is one of them. This is one of them. This is the GLA45 AMG. Now, the GLA series is, of course, part of Mercedes's uh, youngster, their onslaught to capture the youngster market. Okay, they came out with the A class, and then from there they created the CLA and then the GLA. All right, and of course there's the CLA shooting brake as well. So four of them forms like the alliance of making Mercedes way younger again, and they have been very successful at it. I think mainly because Mercedes nailed the styling, they nailed the form factor, they nailed the package of this car. Now, of course, I'll put aside that because this is the GLA45 AMG, and I think in the real world you're not under the protective barrier of racetrack armcos and all that, right? This is one of the fastest cars in the real world. Say, for example, I'm in Taman Desa now. Let's head to Cheras. Okay, let's put aside the legality of things. Okay, put aside about speeding, police or whatever. But what I'm saying is the real world. Okay, and then I need to rush to Cheras, a hospital, and in my garage I have this and a Ferrari or Lamborghini or whatever. I will take this because it is way faster in the real world. Okay, and why I say this is the fastest in the real world, one of the fastest, because of the ride height. Because in real world condition, we don't have flat roads, right? We have speed bumps, we have potholes, we have all sorts of road impurities or undulations, as we like to call them. And we have to deal with them every day. If you drive a supercar, you drive a sports car, you drive whatever, right? You need to brake, slow down, negotiate with it, and then back on the throttle again. This car, it just rummaged through everything. Now, this is the facelifted version of the GLA45. The headlights are slightly different, the bumpers are slightly different, but everything you see here, every single thing that you see on this car now, they're functional. Why? They need to be, because this car has a 2-liter engine that is producing northwards of 375 to 380 horsepower, 450 newton meters of torque. It's a crazy amount of horsepower output. And this engine, right, is built very differently. It is built in Affalterbach AMG, and it's hand built. And I will say this engine is race car ready. That means, right, this engine, the way they built this engine, the way they engineer this engine, right, you can plug this engine out, put it in a race car, put it on the track, and be on 6,000, 7,000 RPM most of the time. And I think it will survive because it is a crazy engine. Okay, it is not an ordinary engine that is boosted to crazy stratospheric boost, but the whole engine, the materials they use, the linings and everything is prepared for this kind of performance output. Okay, now let's go through the exterior. As we see, the GLA is not okay. The GLA is not like a Subaru XV. Okay, the Subaru XV is a normal Subaru hatchback that is jacked up. The GLA looks like the A class, but none of it is similar. Even the front headlamps, the rear headlamps, everything is different. The car is larger. It is actually a larger car than the A class. Okay, and it has the same dashboard. I think the only thing that's the same is the dashboard, and probably the side mirrors and all that. All right. The car has some really good looking lines. I mean, all the new Mercedes, they have some really good purposeful lines that goes on. It looks really good. And then all these details, I don't think these have aerodynamic effects, but I could be wrong. All right, they changed the rim design. I prefer the old rims design, but some of course prefer that. The old one is really very straightforward. There are lesser spokes. All the spokes come to the center. As for this one, it's like a five trident spoke. You see that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They split up, and then they're in the middle. They added that and all that. Okay. It's not a bad looking rim, but I prefer the previous one. It's a very personal thing, all right? Headlamps look sharper now. They look more purposeful. The grille has always looked good. I kind of like, I mean, of course this one looks good. I kind of like that diamond effect thingy, but of course, it looks really good. It's a good looking car, okay? And come to the back. You have this huge spoiler at the back there. somehow it just makes the car look more purposeful, and it sort of completes the car. Even if you buy a GLA 200, right, put this little spoiler please, because it makes the car look good. It just makes the car look better. All right. The rear here we have some air outlets. Now this is not true, so maybe for styling purposes, maybe for vortex generating purposes. I could be wrong. These are definitely vortex generating, indentations, okay, so that it sort of aids the function of this. All right, back, that's the huge diffusers, the back. So you can see that from here it's very clear that this car has a taller ride height, okay. So I like the exterior styling of this car. I like the paint that they applied on this car. Okay, let's have a look at the other features. They mentioned here turbo, 4MATIC. All right. Yeah, man, I love the looks of this car. If one thing that Mercedes does best now is the way their seats look. They look pretty amazing, right? Especially this part. They look like it's 5-point harness ready, but I think this is more stylistic purposes, stylistic. But then there's one thing, putting holes here, right? It sort of lets the rear passenger feels as though their line of sight is not fully blocked off by these kind of huge, very, very sculptural looking sport seats. Let's get back to the front. All right, let's go through the interior. So it's a very good looking, very nicely tatted up cabin. First of all, material quality, everything is very high quality here. All right, there are no weird molding points. Everything is substantial. Everything feels smooth to the touch, comfortable to the touch. Okay, and of course it's a Mercedes, right? Then you have this nice little satin chrome. There's a very liberal use of this material that I like a lot. Satin chrome, okay, it feels so good to the touch. But let me tell you one thing, there is a disadvantage to this. Under the hot sun, especially these few days, right, as I got onto the cabin, right, there are so many touch points that is scorching hot. But I can live with that because after the air conditioning is running, everything is chill and cold, right? This car has a rather powerful air conditioning unit. So if Renault is working together with Mercedes-Benz, right, source their air conditioning unit, because Renault's air conditioning is just poor. Anyway, coming into the cabin, we have the familiar A-series aircon vents, which looks really good. Okay, but they don't feel as substantial as the ones in the C-Class though. I wonder why, but I mean, still, it's nice. And then all these red trimmings, these are AMG only stuffs, okay? The leather clad dashboard, real leather, and then the carbon fiber inlays. All these are really, really nice. And especially nice is the little AMG shifter, which you don't get in the usual ones, okay? This is the exact same one, if I'm not wrong, as the one in the AMG GT. So you have the same shifter as the AMG GT, and it looks cute, it looks unique. Even if you see here, see my finger? Yes, it's a pass-through and it's made of metal or aluminum. I believe it's aluminum. And then there's a little bit of leather up here with the Affalterbad logo, that famous tree and then suspension, all these German crest stuffs. They look weird but unique. They intrigue you in a weird manner, okay? The screen hangs here, of course, is larger than the usual ones. And then there is this Mercedes, in the only car maker in the world that uses this system, some lights, just to not have that annoying beep, 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 beep. Anyway, there's the clusters. It's quite amazing. When you're going 100, right, your speedo is pointing here. So normally 100 is pointing here, right? And here is like 250, but here is 320. I don't think it goes up to 320, but it looks cool, okay? 120 looks like 60 to the usual speedometer positions. I like the paddle shifters. I really like it a lot. I think these are again AMG specific and they feel special. They feel awesome to the touch. You know, one thing I don't like about Audis at times, right? You go up to an Audi S4 or an S5, right? You have the same little tiny plastic paddle shifter that you get from I don't know, Audi A1. That's quite saddening, right? This steering wheel is nicely sized. I kind of felt that for the size of the car, right, it is about half an inch too big. If it is slightly smaller, it will make the cabin feel more accommodative. But of course, it's a nice size. It's a proper big sports car size steering wheel, and it feels good. There's Alcantara over here, and then there's leather wrap here, and it's the kind of new approach a lot of German companies are using, BMW and Mercedes now. It's leather, but then there's sponge in there, so it feels very grippy, very, very nice. Okay, it's flat bottom as well. I am a proponent of flat bottom steering. Some people like to follow those old school motoring journalists and say that, oh, flat bottom is pointless, but they don't know what they're saying, because flat bottom eases ingress and egress, going in and out of the car, especially if you have thighs like mine. Okay, look at this tire. I think my thigh is thicker than the tire, so it's better to have flat bottom steerings that helps me go in and out of the car. Again, this nice really material here is nice. The steering feel is excellent. So this car, from a driver's perspective, from a sitting position perspective, right, this car is spot on. Okay. Another thing is, oh, I haven't explained that Alcantara. Alcantara might feel too smooth to the touch, right? But when you're racing and your hands are sweating, they are very grippy when you are sweating. Because normal leather, right, they are grippy in normal conditions, but when your palms are sweating, they are slippery, but not Alcantara. Okay, that's why Alcantara is being used. Perforated seats here, perforated leather being used there. There's a good mixture, a nice styling accent and all that. And these guys here, these guys are epic. They allow you to clamp different position of your body so that you feel more snug. You can adjust them. And I like these little touches. Of course, the seats are made by Recaro. And then it's really nice, this little badge here. But somehow I don't know why the badging is on the reverse side. Yeah, anyway, it's none of my concern. Okay, so these are nicely designed. It's carpeted in here. You can put big bottles here. Everything is really nice from the front. Okay, of course you have these skid plates, AMG plates, and then those really sporty pedals. All right, come to the back. That's where it matters, right? I mean, that's where it matters as well, because people will buy this as a family car. Okay, so this is a GLA 45. Headroom is excellent because, and no, it's decent. I'm not touching anything, unlike in Jaguars. And you get panoramic roof, a two-piece panoramic roof, front and rear passenger. So it's really nice and airy here with the roof. That aids things. And I have enough headroom. I have enough knee room. Wait, I have good enough knee room. One thing that I do not have enough is my feet isn't able to slot into the front seat, but that is because of how I adjusted the front seat. I drop it low so that as a rear passenger I can slot in. Okay, it is four-wheel drive, but it has an acceptable tunnel here. Okay, the tunnel isn't too big, I would say. Let me turn you around. Okay, so the center tunnel isn't too big, okay, strictly saying, and there's aircon vents here, but it's pointing straight at my balls if I'm sitting there. So of course you can angle it slightly, okay, but that's where it's positioned. Okay, the center armrest, and then you have cup holders here, and just cup holders. There's no compartments. Don't forget, this is still a small car, but the way they package it is decent enough. The rear seating position, even though I'm seated quite upright, it's alright. It doesn't have that kind of, that kind of weird headrest feel that you get from the Audi A4. Okay, in terms of room, right, the interior room of this car isn't that much more cramped than my Audi S4. Okay, I have the old Audi, the B8, the previous generation. So the new one is larger, but yeah. As for the boot, again, it's a small hatchback, right? It's supposed to be a small hatchback, right? And then from here you look at it, it isn't that big, right? But I tell you what, I have a pram, and the size of this boot, right, is similar again to my Audi S4. So I was surprised again. There's a tire repair kit and a subwoofer here. That's it. And then of course the extra space, you can use it as a compartment. Okay, nothing special behind here. But one thing's unique with the GLA series is that you get power boot. All right. So yeah, that's the exterior. Let's go in and we drive. Okay. The starting sequence looks like that. Sorry, I'm on reserve fuel level because, yeah, this car, even though it's a 2-liter, right, it is a thirsty car. But I forgive it because it makes spending petrol on this car worthwhile. You know, some petrol, imagine every little drop of petrol has life in them. Okay, imagine every little drop of petrol has life in them. Most of them die a meaningless death. You know, they are sitting in a car. The guy was sleeping in his car. His engine is started, and then every drop is burned, and for no reason. But this car, right, it makes the burning of every drop of petrol meaningful. It makes internal combustion engine cars that are run by internal combustion engine, it makes them purposeful and meaningful and just freaking awesome. Yep. Morning guys, so I'm sure you can see what car this is. Oh no, I'm sure you can't guess what car this is because it looks exactly like the A45 in the cabin, but actually I'm driving the GLA45 and in front of me is a CLA45. So this is the facelifted GLA45, just unveiled about a month ago. It's priced at 400,000 now, but it makes 20 more horsepower, 381 horsepower, and it is intoxicating to drive. It is intoxicating to drive. With Mercedes 4MATIC, so it's 4-wheel drive, dual clutch, and a race prep engine. Yes, it is actually a racing engine. Even though they're not using it for races, but that engine is completely built like a race engine. So I think it's the only kind of car in this. I mean, is there even a segment? Can I say? 2-liter, 380 horsepower, crazy amounts of horsepower, and it delivers. It's not like a stupid turbo lag machine, and it's fun to drive. I mean, amongst the A series of Mercedes-Benzes, the one I prefer the most all this while has always been the GLA, be it the 200 or 250 or 45, because it has a very unique form factor. Yeah, Mercedes calls it an SUV, but I don't think it's an SUV. It's a very unique car. You can say it's a crossover maybe, and I like it because of its different form factor and its slightly higher ride height actually. And in this form, it's very nice. Very, very nice. You know, one thing that you cannot deny that the success of the front-wheel drive A series Mercedes-Benzes is that even though the architecture is essentially a front-wheel drive architecture, but the way that they built it and the way it can be, is the flexibility of this platform in putting different engines, different characteristics, different body styles, and all of them drive decently well. Yes, there is the CLA 200s and all that of the the pre-facelift ones where suspension is horrible, but the series has proved its resilience because they are still selling well. and Mercedes keeps updating them. And of course, this is the crystallization of all that to me is this one, you know, the GLA45. Small, punchy, and manic, urgent, and it's just a very good package to drive. Yeah, and it sounds intoxicating as well. So yeah, man. It's a car that gives you a lot of confidence on the go because you feel very connected to everything. You really feel connected. Yes, the package might sound like a boring recipe, you know, 4-wheel drive, high powered, the usual Audi recipe. But the thing is, the steering wheel of Mercedes-Benzes, they have never been bad. They have been communicative, and the body control as well is good. It's not as fluid or as organic, shall I say, as a Golf R, but that car, I think, in its pursuit of covering a broader spectrum of usage, has in somewhat dilute its capacity to extract that kind of urgency out of you, you know, that kind of feeling. That car lacks this kind of emotion that the 45 series is able to deliver. So that's the biggest difference. On the go, right? When the turbos are on song, this car really pulls so easily. And the backfires from the exhaust, that's intoxicating. So yeah, man, this car is very nice to drive. Very easy, very easy for someone like me. Not pro driver can just hop up and then drive like and drive at 8/10, you know, and they won't get you won't get into trouble doing it. One thing about cars like this, right, is that for those drivers, those M3 drivers, you know, those who are more professional, or driving enthusiasts per se, they will find that 10 minutes into the car, right, there's nothing else left to explore. Yeah, that's the thing that they might felt, because a lot of cars that you need to learn them, you need to grow with them, you need to uncover certain characteristics from the depths of the car. The more you understand the car, the more you drive it, the more you learn from it, and then that's where you find your enjoyment. But when everything is given to you at the first go, they might felt, you know, I mean, it's the same analogy when I drove the Huracan and the Aventador, right? If you watch that video, I've said that both are beautiful ladies. You met them at the bar first, you know, and then you can have a great night of sex with the Huracan. Whereas the Aventador, you need to talk to her, you need to drink with her, you need to talk, understand more. That's where you know, you won't get it at first try. So I think it's the same analogy. This car, it gives everything to you at the first go, you know. And seasoned drivers might find that a bit, you know, boring. But for me, people like me, oh hell no, man, I can do that all day. And there's another argument to it, you know. Say for example, an owner of a Cayman R, you know, who likes the kind of purity of driving and all that. Not every day he wants to have that kind of, you know, 100% focus to extract performance or speed. Sometimes he wants to drive like that, you know. It's just like not every time you want to watch a movie from France, you know, about art, about history and all that. Sometimes you just want to shut off your brain and then watch a stupid Michael Bay movie, and you get all the blast, you know, all the oral visual enjoyment. And yeah, that's what this car is. Yeah, so, and of course you don't get that kind of glorious sound. But for a 4-cylinder, this is one of the best sounding 4-cylinders out there, seriously. It's like the German version of the Civic Type R. Yeah. The amazing thing about this engine is not only that it's torquey at low end, but as you pull across the rev range, right, it still churns out power. It still gives you more and more and more. It really pulls towards the high RPM. So in certain ways, it is a heavily turbocharged car that also behaves like a racing, naturally aspirated engine in certain ways. Yeah, when you're keeping it at its revs, right, and you keep pulling it, it's like a racing, naturally aspirated, small racing engine. And the fact that, look at all these curves, right, and then I was throttling at the curve and the turbos are spooling, it doesn't unsettle the car. So that really shows that they put in their homework, you know, not like some Audi RS3 or some of the Audis, you know, front wheel drive or 4-wheel drive, heavily turbocharged. It feels like a standard car that was being heavily turbocharged. So, but this guy, never once it pushed its front, even though it's a front wheel drive architecture. So I think that's what makes this series of cars so successful, I guess. And the fact that I'm talking like that while I'm driving, it shows that I'm not in a panic mode. Of course, I don't drive as fast as the pros. And, yeah, man, this is a great driver's car. A great driver's car, even if you're not a pro driver, you know, it is a great driver's car. You see, and the traction you have. What's wrong with the M3? There's actual steering feel, you know. Oh my god. That makes it so explorable. And on wet surface like this. But overall, this car is such an easy car to explore its potential, its power, is so usable daily. You know, this is what an Audi RS should have been at the first place. Yeah, the way it drives, the way it delivers power, and yeah, man, very nice car to drive.